let's make this a little tougher, shall we? What to do in a question like this when it says completing the squares? Look how awful this is. Well, you know what? I'm going to show you a trick. Remember, this equals to 0. So you can actually factor out the negative 0.016 and then eventually cancel it all out. GCF it. Let's go. You know what? I'm going to need my calculator for this because I don't know about you. When you divide this whole thing out by negative 0.016, the only one I can do in my head is this one. This gives me x squared. But now, let's divide this guy out, 1.152 by negative 0.016. So here's my calculator right here. 1.152 divided out by the GCF of negative 0.016, and I get, look at that, negative 72, a nice number. Oh, negative 72x. Let's do the same thing for the 15.2. Bring up the calculator again. Here it is. Clear this. 15.2, negative 15.2 divided by negative 0.016. Enter. I get 950. Positive. Okay. Positive 950 equals to 0. Now look, watch this. Divide this guy by, guess what? 0.016 on this side. Divide this by negative 0.016 on that side. And guess what? This guy cancels. It's gone. This guy becomes 0. So you get a beautiful, look at this. Oh my goodness. From ugly to something that is actually quite pretty. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Look at that. Completing the square is now just a piece of cake. Okay, so just like before, completing the square, those guys go together to give you x squared minus 72x. Bada boom, bada boom. The 950, because it doesn't cooperate, is out here. Magic number. There we go. It's minus 36 because it's half of 72. Let's square minus 36. Okay. Bring up the calculator, clear this, bracket minus 36, bracket, oops, that's 336, oops, bracket minus 36, there we go, bracket, let's square it, and look at this, ta-da, 1296, excellent. So this becomes 1296, so we know we have to subtract 1296 out here. All right, clean it up even some more. Here we go. We've got x minus 36, that's squared, the old completing the square principle here. We got minus 1296 and 950. Bring up the calculator again. Okay, so 950 minus 1296 is going to give us a negative number of negative 346. Negative 346. Okay, there it is. And don't forget this whole thing equals to 0. Now, let's solve this. Boom. Add 346 to both sides. Add 346 to both sides. That gets rid of this guy, giving you x minus 36 squared equals to 346. And guess what? Square root. But if you square root 346, you actually get an ugly number. Right? So that makes me wonder. Well, I'll even prove it to you. Look, I'll bring up the calculator here. Okay, I got 346, right? I'm going to take the square root, second square root of 346, and look, I get an ugly number. So I'm wondering, can we reduce this? Can we take 346, let's divide it by 2 and start a factor tree. And look at that, I got 173. That's it. So I can't even reduce it. So, or make it into a mixed radical. So just leave it the way it is. But here's one thing that we forgot. When we square root, don't forget, it's plus or minus. So now, 2 questions. We've got x minus 36 equals to plus square root 346. And we have x minus 36 equals to minus the square root of 346. Right? Add the 36, add the 36, and look what you got. x equals to 36 plus the square root of 346. And the same thing goes here, and you're going to get x equals to 36 minus the square root of 346. But is there a nicer way to write this? Yeah, there is. It's actually quite easy way to write this. You can actually write it as x equals to 36 plus or minus the square root of 346. That's totally allowed. So that's not a bad question. The big thing is get rid of that ugly decimal. Take a look again. Get rid of that ugly decimal up front. That's really going to help. Get rid of this guy by factoring it out and then canceling them right there. And if you do that, this turns out to be a pretty straightforward question.